Hey everybody, it's Ted, the Buffalo Beauty Boy, and today I'm gonna share this look with you. I've got swatches all over my hands, I've got a full face of new products that I picked up, and I made a video talking about some things that I wanted from the Sephora sale. We had the Credo sale, we've had tons of sales, 'tis the season. So I picked up a handful of things that between my last video, between posts on Instagram, people definitely seemed to be interested in. So I wanted to kind of put them all on camera and share this look with you because it's what I created. I've used a couple of these products a couple times. A couple of them, it was my first time trying them. And there's not a dud in the bunch, y'all. Really, I think these brands are stepping their game up. Some of these are not exactly brand new. Some of them are. Some of them are like forgotten favorites in my Sephora loves that I've been wanting to try for a really long time. So before I jump into, creating the look, I did want to say that I'm just so appreciative of everybody who has been supporting me on here and on my Instagram. It really means the world to me. And with the holidays coming up, I'm just even more like basking in the gratefulness that I have for this little community of people that, maybe kind of feel like beauty misfits, and we can come together and put on blush and eyeshadow and lipstick and just feel good about ourselves. So it means the world to me, and I will definitely be talking about that in an upcoming video. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about trying new makeup, so we're gonna get into it. Okay, I have my base and my brows on because I figure like I can only talk about Dior Backstage Face and Body so many times, and I can only talk about the Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Brows so many times. So yeah, that's what I've got on, and I'm really excited to get into these new products. I talked a little bit about a couple of them, like in my stories and in my last video. So I'm excited to share like the fruits of that. So I did pick up the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush bronzer. And first of all, it's the size of my head. I'm really hoping that this is gonna be like my staple, like permanent replacement for the Marc Jacobs bronzer, because I think that one is discontinued. So I feel like they're similar in like price. I've used this a couple times. The day I got it, I couldn't not open it, but I will say the packaging is absolutely stunning. It is, however, lighter than I thought it would be. So like, it's not that it's like lightweight, but this is definitely plastic. It does feel like a high-end plastic. You've got a really great mirror. And then this is the product. I got the shade medium. The Charlotte Tilbury one has, I think, 4 shades, and they are pretty expansive, but again, we need more. So I'm going to go in with my Morphe M530. This is not like a phenomenal brush. It's just my favorite bronzer brush. So I'm going to kind of swirl in the way that I normally would. Like I tend to be pretty heavy-handed with my bronzer. And I'm just going to kind of sculpt out. I think because this is part of the Airbrush collection, it is a product that you can kind of build up. Like it's not one of those bronzers that you have to be so delicate and precious with. So I'm dipping in like a third time. It's definitely more bronzy than I would typically go on like a day-to-day, but I really just wanted to show what the product does and what it's capable of. So I'm gonna put bronzer on the other side. I feel like this is a product that you can really use. Like I can swirl in and I don't really have to dust off my brush. Like it feels like it's a product that you can kind of like take a bite of. Does that make sense? And I personally like that. I think when you are spending this much on a product such as a bronzer that you're going to be using, almost every day, probably every time you do your makeup or, you know, in there, especially from a brand like Charlotte Tilbury, where I have said, you know, just in my personal findings, Charlotte Tilbury is like bougie makeup for the people. It is designed to be like used. It's a makeup wearer's, you know, brand, where something like Danessa Myricks or something like even like Makeup Forever, I feel like those tend to be more calibrated towards like professional makeup artists or people that are really like refining and fine-tuning their makeup kits, where Charlotte Tilbury, I think, you know, some of her products are, you know, cult classics for a reason, but something like a bronzer, you want to kind of dig in, pop it on, and have it work really easily. So not that I typically go out with like just a base on, like if I do am doing a minimal makeup look, I will just go out with like no base, but maybe like blush and eyebrows. But this is the bronzer, and I would absolutely feel comfortable leaving the house. You know, I don't feel like it's like too much of anything. And it's beautiful. So I'm very pleased with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush bronzer. There's no noticeable scent, which I personally love. I don't love a super fragrance bronzer, where the Marc Jacobs one definitely does have that coconutty kind of scent. So I would say, again, that one's discontinued. I think this one is not, and it's beautiful. It is pricey. However, it is refillable. So if you have a pretty extensive like palette collection or whatever, you can just buy the refill and try it out. But the packaging is absolutely gorgeous. I'm very pleased to have this in my collection. Side note, I have beef with Starbucks. Mostly because, well, no, I can't say mostly because. I have beef with Starbucks because their union busting tactics at the locations in Buffalo were despicable, and I support unions. Also, they did not bring back the salted caramel mocha, and that hurts me deeply. So, but this is a chestnut praline latte with soy, and it's pretty good. If you don't know, I worked at a fake Starbucks for like a million years. It was the Barnes Noble Cafe. So it's like Starbucks, but not whatever. I am going to try out the Dior Backstage Eye Palette. This is the warm neutral palette. And I posted about it, and I shared it in my last video, how it's no secret that I love Dior. And I've always wanted to try their eyeshadows, and the quads look gorgeous. These Backstage palettes look gorgeous. So I chose the Backstage palette. Again, this is the warm neutral. And I have not used this. I mean, it's beautiful. So I'm really excited because it looks like there's a few mattes, but then a couple like demi mattes. It says that it says there's matte and shimmer, and then a gold highlighter, and then a sculpting powder. So it says that this is the highlight and this is the sculpt. But what also is in here is a primer. This is the primer, and you know, I do not like dabble with primer. I use the Smashbox 24 Hour. That is like my ride or die HG primer. Like that's what I use. So I'm going to give this a go. And I think it makes sense to apply with my finger. I've got nothing on my eyes right now. I didn't even bring my like base product on because I really wanted to put this to the test. So at first swatch, it's definitely like creamy. Now, I definitely don't think that this would be ideal for somebody with a deeper skin tone. But it does have some pretty good back pigment. My eyes tend to be a little bit pigmented, and that really evened out that base. It dries down pretty quickly, and it does feel really nice on the eye. It feels like they definitely absorb some oil. So I guess we'll see. Now, I think what I'm going to do, because I want to try to use these products, I really want to get in there. So I think what I'm going to do is take this ombre sculpting. That's what it's called in the package. And I'm going to take just a teeny brush and I'm going to use that to, ooh, okay. So when I dip in, can you see that? There's quite a bit of kickback. I can't say, well, there's not kickback like in the pan, but when I dust my brush off, there's definitely some fallout. So something to know. I'm going to sculpt out my crease. This is blending really, really nicely. I don't think it's like choppy or anything whatsoever. And it blends out and it really is kind of cool toned. So I guess that's probably good, seeing as this is like the warm neutral, to have that like grounding, cool toned, like sculpting powder. It makes sense. It makes sense to me. Now, I have heavily hooded eyes, so I can really do work on my crease. But if you don't, probably don't go as heavy as I am. So we're looking a little corpse bridey, but that's okay. I'm going to take this warm shade, this warm brown. It's called Matte Ochre. I'm going to take a bigger brush. This is, it's the medium shadow brush from Real Techniques, and this is one of my favorite brushes. It's my favorite like one and done shadow brush. What I'm going to do, now that I've kind of sculpted that hollow, I'm going to put this all over just to kind of warm it up. And I'll use that to really blend up that crease that I just carved out. Carved out isn't the right word because it's not a cut crease, but I'll use it to blend that crease. And for as much like powder kickback as there was when I dipped the brush in, I will say I'm not seeing a ton of fallout. So that's just those two mattes. And I think what I'm going to do next is take a like lighter brush, or take a fluffier brush, and I'm going to put a lighter toned shimmer on my brow bone just to see what that shimmer does with a brush. And then I'll take this copper shimmer and put it right in the center with my finger to kind of show what both of them are capable of. I'm going to take the shade Gold Highlighter. There is a little bit more noticeable kickback in the pan with the shimmer shade, but there's less of that brush fallout. That's really pretty. Definitely has that like Dior glam to it. I don't know if I really like am ready to consider myself like an authority on Dior makeup. I have not used, honestly, like a ton of their stuff, but everything that I have used from them, I've really, really, really loved. And I find they get it right. Like, their matte isn't too matte. Their highlight can be blinding, but it's very wearable. Their lip products just sit so nicely. I really feel like Dior just gets it right. Like, they understand the assignment every single time. And with something like that, like a brow highlight, like I really wanted to go in and do that. And it just looks so nice. So what I'm going to do is take my finger in this coppery one, and I'm going to put that right in the middle. So the shadow is definitely really light. Like you can see I tapped my finger into that middle one and it really did break up a lot of that stamp. So the shadow does have a good like creaminess to it. Not quite as much as like a Super Shock from ColourPop, because those, like you dip your finger in once and then you lose, like you're touching pan. Where this definitely does not have that much. It's a little bit more bodied, but it is a very finely milled, soft press. And using your finger with those shimmers, oh my God. I'm screaming, I'm shook. Oh, this is so good. So I'm taking that brush that I used for that lighter shade, and I'm just gonna kind of like stipple a little. That's that coppery shade blended out. So I think, yeah, just for continuity, I'm gonna do this shimmery brown. It's a shimmery dark brown, which I love. I'm gonna do that at my lash line. I'm taking a teeny, teeny, teeny little brush. It is the Spectrum X KJH21. And I'm dipping in. So I've just enhanced that lash line. It's something that I really like to do, especially because I'm not a super big mascara wearer. And what I'm actually gonna do, I'm gonna dip into that coppery shimmer again, but I'm gonna take my big fluffy brush and I'm just gonna pat that right in the middle. I feel like this palette was made for green eyes. Yeah, that's really, really nice. Very pretty. So it's a wonderful palette. I definitely see this becoming a regular like staple in my collection. Do I think it's like $50 great? The jury's still out, but it is really, really nice. So the next little new that I picked up is the Rose Ink Concealer. And I picked up the shade LX40. I have used this once, and it was very rushed, so I don't really have like a full solid opinion. There's no noticeable fragrance to it. I remember the night that I wore it, it did last really well. So I'm gonna take just a teeny, teeny bit because this is very, very concentrated and very pigmented, and that is typically not my jam. But, well, I can't say that because I love the Rare Beauty concealer. That's been my like other concealer staple. So I'm gonna just dot a little bit of this on my inner corner, like so, and then a little bit out there. And now one place that I do struggle to like keep coverage is like right here. I think it's like, I don't know if it's like from my glasses rubbing there or what, but I know we don't do triangles under our eyes anymore, but this is what some people have to do. So I'm taking just my damp sponge, and I like to start on that inner and kind of work out. And then I like to kind of cut that line using the edge because I am not that precise. And you can see Miss Rose Ink really does that. Like when I tell you I used barely any product, and this is the coverage I'm getting. Yeah. This definitely would be what I would consider like a brightening concealer for me, not, you know, something that I would use to like spot concealer or anything like that. And then what I like to do after I put my concealer on is I'll actually take my bronzer brush and just kind of marry everything. See how that just kind of brings it like down to a place where it's not so like screaming. I find that's just a little thing that I like to do because I don't like a heavy concealer under eye whatsoever. The next new thing that I got is the Rituel de Fille Inner Glow in the shade Lust. Now, Rituel de Fille is a brand that I have really lusted after for a really long time. Amanda loves them, Amanda Z. She goes hard for Rituel de Fille. And I picked up a couple of their products, but this has been by far the standout. And I struggled because there was a couple shades that I wanted and a couple shades that I knew I didn't want that I was easily going to be trapped by. So like the shade Eros is like super brown, but it's very cool toned where I don't love that. I like a warmer brown. Where this one in the pot, it looks kind of like bloody, like a blood red mauve-y, but when blended out, it's like a brownie bricky color, and I barely touched my finger in there. So I've been wearing this kind of a lot. It's been one that, like, again, when I got it, I couldn't keep my hands off of it. So I'm gonna take just a little bit. And this is why I felt confident using that concealer, because this is gonna go everywhere. So just take a teeny little bit. And then I'm gonna use my sponge again. And I find this gives me a like very soft glow. Like it almost could be like a cream bronzer. And I find if you're new here, I love a brownie blush. So I was really pleased when I saw what this becomes. I feel like it's super natural looking. I always like to take, when I do any sort of blush work, I take whatever like apparatus I used and I just kind of bring it across my forehead afterwards. So that's a super light application, but I think we could stand to kick it up a little bit. Do you ever play the game where you're like, which blush brush should I use for this? Just me, maybe. So I'm gonna take the Spectrum Katie Jane Hughes 04, tapping in like barely any, like super, super lightly. And I'm gonna pop this all over. So I find Rituel de Fille, this is my first like experience with any of their products whatsoever, and I'm really pleased. I think that Rituel de Fille kind of fills, like, I feel like Rituel de Fille is like the goth sister to Charlotte Tilbury. In that, I feel like they're very high-end, very elegantly calibrated, but there is that bit of like dark mysticism around them, and I really like that. And I know like Charlotte Tilbury herself is like very into astrology, so I kind of get that like vibe from Charlotte Tilbury, where Rituel de Fille I feel like wears it a little bit more transparently. They do like full moon releases and stuff. So I'm very pleased to incorporate some Rituel de Fille into my daily life. Now that looks more like me. That is like the blush that I love. Um, it's just a good cream pigment. And I feel like cream pigments now are like a dime a dozen, like there's a million, but I find that this dries down. In my opinion, it doesn't stay like tacky on the cheeks, and you can see it looks almost like a powder. Like it doesn't have that like sheen where it looks like if I swipe my finger, it's gonna like go with it. So that is the Ritual Defeat Inner Glow Cream Pigment in the shade Lust. These are a collection of like new products that I picked up from the Sephora sale, from the Credo sale, and I didn't want to make separate videos. I just kind of wanted to, you know, play around. And I'm really excited for this because it's a brand that I love. I love their ethos. I love everything about them. The one palette that I have from them, they reformulated, or they changed like the layout of, so I try not to use products that like you can't find anymore, but it's the brand Aether, and this is their Supernova Crushed Diamond Highlighter, and she is a beaut. I used this once. It's the Pure Diamond Dust, and I had heard about this. If you don't know, they're a clean beauty brand. All of their packaging is recyclable and I don't think it's compostable, but it's recyclable, biodegradable, just a really good brand. And I love everything that they stand for. But then I heard Khaki talk about this highlighter specifically, and it is stunning. Like, that's a finger swatch of a powder highlighter. So I'm gonna swirl in. And when I used this, I had my friends over for Friendsgiving, and they could not believe, like several people, and like they all know me. These are my best friends in the whole world. They were like screaming at my highlight. Maybe not screaming, I'm dramatic, but a couple of them were like, "You're really glowy." And I was like, "Thanks." I mean, from the front, it just looks like I'm wearing highlighter, you know, a little glow, but are we screaming? Scream with me. And then, you know, I love that above the brow highlight. So I'm just gonna swirl a little bit on. So good. One product that I did want to share that I picked up at the Sephora sale. It's been in my Sephora loves list for a really long time, and I found it. It was on sale at the Sephora in JCPenney near me, and I don't think it's discontinued, which is why I'm going to share it. But it's a lipstick by Lancome, and it is their L'Absolu Rouge in Coeur de Ruby, and it's my perfect red. First of all, how satisfying is that? That mechanism is exquisite. Now, in the bullet, it looks, again, it's called Coeur de Ruby, which means heart of ruby. So I was thinking that it was going to be like super red, but it really is kind of like a bricky, it's like a bricky nude almost, but on me, it shapes out to be my perfect red. So I feel like the swatch doesn't do it justice, but when I put it on, it really comes to life. So I'm gonna put this on, and yeah, we'll talk. This is the lipstick on at its like full opacity. I'm gonna blot it down because that's what I do anyway. I feel like calling it a red is like a bit of a stretch, but this is a red-ish, red-inspired shade that I feel comfortable wearing. I did blot it down just a little bit, and this is how I would wear this shade. It is by Lancome. Super comfortable and super thin. It's not one of those lipsticks that you put on and it's like, you can use like a putty knife to scrape it off. This really does feel very comfortable on the lips, kind of like a second skin. And I'm just really pleased. I was shook when I found it because not only did I get it during the Sephora sale, but it was also 50% off. So if you have a Sephora in JCPenney, stop in because this is like a $30 some odd lipstick, and 50% off, it brought it down to like 16 plus. I mean, the Sephora sale is not going on anymore, but I paid $14 for this lipstick. This is, and now $14 is like the cost of like a L'Oreal like infallible situation. So I'm really pleased to have this. And this is the final look of all fun new products that I picked up. It's very autumnal, very fall friendly. I probably, because the blush is really like, that's my favorite. We all know I'm a blush queen. So I probably wouldn't wear the blush with the lip. I would probably like wear like a brownie gloss, or I would go for my favorite Gucci Margaret Jade. But thank you so much. I had a ton of fun just kind of playing with this new makeup. And I know between my last video and my posts and whatnot on Instagram, people were curious about the Dior, people were curious about the Charlotte Tilbury, and people were curious about the lipsticks. So I figured I would just make a video and share all of it with you. If you are new here, thank you so much for coming to hang out. And if you are a longtime subscriber, thank you so much. It means the world to me. I know that we have the holidays coming up, and that can be really stressful for a lot of people. Everybody has different family situations, everybody has different holiday situations, and with the pandemic, stress is just at an all-time high. So I really hope that this video brought you some sort of comfort, and I hope that wherever you are, no matter what you're going through, that you're staying safe, that you're taking care of yourself, and that you know that you're loved. As always, I hope you know that you're made of gold. So until next time.